for me, leadership is about constant education. That's just for me. Always trying to strive to get better. And the better that I can be, the better that I can then serve my team.
Welcome to another episode of the Prosper Brief. Today we're excited to sit down with Charles Watson to explore how inclusive leadership drives innovation and empowers teams. Get ready for a conversation packed with insights you won't want to miss.
Hello and welcome to the Prosper Brief. We are here today with Charles Watson, CEO of Tropical Smoothie. I'm Sarah Lockyer, Chief Brand Officer at the Elliott Group. We're excited today to talk about all things leadership, all things Prosper, and first and foremost to start out a little bit about No Kid Hungry, right? Charity Spotlight for Prosper, wonderful organization, something that we are both close to on the advisory board. Charles has done some tremendous work with the CEO Pledge most recently, and would love to hear about that from you in terms of what it means to you and why you felt so passionate about it.
Sure, absolutely. Charles Watson, CEO of Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Super happy to be here with you, Sarah. No Kid Hungry is indeed very close to my heart. When I think about the bounty that this country has, the idea that we would have one in five kids hungry just seems like an atrocity, and I think it is. So we absolutely can fix that. And the CEO Pledge was an idea that myself and a few others, I'm just getting attributed to me, but lots of great brains involved. The CEO Pledge is about really started with the restaurant industry, right? What do we do every day? We feed people, right? We provide hospitality and food. Goodness gracious, the kids in this country are our future employees and our future guests.
Customers.
So let's take care of them for sure. The restaurant industry, No Kid Hungry is trying to raise $50 million over the next 3 years. And I think the restaurant industry and the CEOs of those restaurant brands, I think we can raise 25 million of that. I think we can get half of that in those 3 years. And so we already have some other fantastic CEOs signed up for that and more to come. So we're excited to bring more people on for the CEO Challenge to raise money for No Kid Hungry.
Nice. I love that. And give yourself some kudos here. How much has Tropical Smoothie raised for No Kid Hungry?
In the past maybe 20 months, I'd say we're pushing $4 million. So a big thank you to our franchisees, a big thank you to our guests as well, who've done a lot of roundup donations, as well as our franchisees in the cafe raising funds. So it can be done for sure. If we, for any brands out there, we can focus our efforts and we can bring in dollars for No Kid Hungry.
No, it's incredible. And it's incredible what you've done as a franchise system to really get those groups on board, which is not always easy. And kudos to Prosper for choosing this charity as an organization that they're supporting. It really is an incredible mission.
Well, I find, Sarah, if you put David in a headlock like this and you give him a big noogie, you absolutely can make it the spotlighted charity.
I agree. I've seen that happen multiple times.
Yes.
Good tip for everyone. No, I love No Kid Hungry. It's dear to our hearts, dear to many. So congratulations on leading that and really appreciate that. So obviously we're here at Prosper. We're talking about just a small part of what we're doing. We are actually doing a panel tomorrow as well, speaking about strengthening your ultimate asset, which is people and the workforce, and talking about leadership. So I wanted to get your take on all of the conferences that there are and why you are at Prosper.
I think that Prosper and David Job and the whole team and what they are doing here is incredibly special. That would be a light way of saying it. To bring together diverse future leaders, and I think, as David says, to create a bigger table, a more open table, et cetera, is a cause worth celebrating and a cause worth supporting. And I know, just like the CEO Challenge for No Kid Hungry, we've got a lot of CEOs here. I've bumped into a bunch of colleagues. We've got big vendors. So this is something that this industry cares about, and that we want to create the next generation. And we want it to be that big, open, inclusive table of future executives. And that is well worth the time and the effort in my book.
Nice. Good for you. And the Prosper Accelerators. What do you feel about that? And how
Love
are you
that.
supporting?
I've got some accelerators here myself, and the opportunity, especially in a franchise organization, we actually bring franchisees as our accelerators, can bring our corporate support staff as well. But I've chosen to kind of focus on our franchisees, and it has been fantastic because especially a franchisee who sometimes feels like they're in Baltimore, or they're in Idaho, or they're in Atlanta, or they're wherever they are, it brings them together and brings these opportunities that as a franchisee, as your own business owner, you're not seeing. But guess what all those franchisees are? They're CEOs.
They're CEOs,
of their own business.
100%.
And we know in franchising, the key to a great franchise is the community involvement and serving the communities in the areas where those franchises are located. And coming here, there's some skills and some discussions that can be had by those franchisees as CEOs that I think can aid them in their leadership, both of their crews or whatever you may choose to call the employees of that franchise, and to realize that they're not alone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other very diverse groups of people that are out doing the exact same thing. So it's been very neat from the franchise side because we're 100% franchised.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I feel like franchisees in many cases are the workers, the heart and soul of the restaurant industry, but don't often get that access to information or education that corporate or CEO level executives often get, which is excellent. And I feel like at the Elliott Group, one reason why we're really proud to be founding partners here is that there's the element of education and inspiration and access. Right. I mean, that inclusive access of education is really important, something that we believe in at Elliott as well.
And I agree. I got to lead a table earlier, and it is incredibly fun to be at a table and say, hey, I'm Charles. I just happen to be the CEO. I'm a nice guy, but I just happen to be the CEO of this other company. And some of the questions that come up, it is neat. It's about access, right? It's about access. But then the next step is mentorship, right? That's we're going to come and we're going to celebrate and do all that, but it's about bringing that back and mentoring some of our younger up and coming leaders. And that was really what we talked a lot about at our table, was the next steps even after the
follow-up is crucial.
The follow-up,
We always say that. You can be here and you can laugh, you can make connections, but it's that follow-up and the commitment to follow up.
Absolutely.
What's your commitment like when it comes to mentorship and how you approach, your own personal team?
I always start with the fact that regardless of titles, regardless of any of that stuff, we're all human beings. Right. And so we all have our needs and our desires and our wants, and tapping into those things and understanding, especially for me being a franchise guy, understanding what those owners, those fellow CEOs as franchisees, what is it that they're looking to accomplish? Now, of course, there's financial and all of those good things. But the opportunity to show a route into what could possibly for our franchisees be a bigger business, right? Opening a second unit, a third unit, et cetera. And that's not being selfish by me, just because we want to have more locations open, but showing the pathway. Our Chief Development Officer, Cheryl Fletcher, does a great job with this, because it comes down to financing and credit. And when you're a brand like ours or many of the other brands here, you can assist those folks in the ability to continue to scale their business and continue to drive at higher levels their income, their wealth, their equity, their lifestyle. And that ultimately, it doesn't matter what color you are, what size you are, what state you're from, we all want to improve our lot in life. And isn't that sort of what America was founded on? This whole idea 100%. Of capitalism and driving it. And so making that table bigger, as is the point here, is my part in doing that is on the franchise side.
Yeah. Well, and in franchising is often, I don't want to say it's overlooked. Obviously, it's a massive industry, but it's overlooked, I think, in the media and in the conversations people have around how important it can be to provide that generational wealth, to provide that opportunity for growth, whether you are opening your one restaurant, whether you get to 10, whether you get to hundreds. And it's a really interesting part, especially in the restaurant world, where you don't have to have the pedigree of an amazing college education. But look
education.
At this, don't need it.
At the Prosper Forum, you literally can look out and you can see the president of the International Franchise Association standing right over there.
Shout out to Matt.
Shout out to Matt. Absolutely.
I can't see him because of the lights.
He's deep in thought, driving franchising for all of us. But that is true.
Yeah,
Matt
really
Haller is right over there, and talk about championing an industry. He does an amazing job with that. And championing, we've had franchisees that have gotten more involved in IFA, which is also a great cause and drives all of us. All of this working together, whether it's the IFA, Prosper, No Kid Hungry. Look at what this industry has to offer, and the diversity of thought, the diversity of organizations that are coming together to support the restaurant industry and everything around it, and the people. It's about the people that are in it. So I think it's neat. He just happened to be standing there, so we had to give him a shout out.
Had to give him a shout out. Oh, he is right there. You had to give him a shout out. Love Matt. Matt and I go back like decades. Another story.
You must have met him when you were 10?
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Obviously.
He was a PR guy. I was a reporter, Wonderful conversation about the industry, Prosper, No Kid Hungry. Let's talk a little bit about you. What has your leadership journey been? Now, you were at Tropical Smoothie Cafe for 13 years now?
I'm 15 now.
15?
Again, I started when I was 10 as well.
No, see, I get it.
Exactly.
Anthony Zaller's here as a lawyer. We won't get into the
That's
legalities
right. We'll keep that on the DL. Yep.
But when you look back at just those 15 years,
Sure.
what do you see that stands out from your own leadership perspective?
You know what stands out for me? It's hard to be sitting at Prosper and not think about this, but I think about my journey and the opportunities that were given. When I started at Tropical Smoothie Cafe, we had about 250, 300 locations. We're now coming up on 1,500, and I worked my way up. So work ethic is always going to be a part of it, but the lessons learned and the other people in this industry that I was able to go to and say, hey, I just got this promotion to Chief Development Officer. Let me go speak with somebody who's done real estate, who's done design and construction in the CEO role. Many other CEOs that I've flown to go have lunch with because they know they have a lot of brain picking. So for me, leadership is about constant education. That's just for me. Always trying to strive to get better. And the better that I can be, the better that I can then serve my teams and my folks at Tropical Smoothie. And I say that all in the context of what we all do at Tropical Smoothie at our support center is serve franchisees.
Yeah.
So it is this continuum of service, which I love because that is the restaurant business as well. But to me, it's an evolution, and my leadership style, I'd love to tell you, well, today it's this. It better be constantly evolving, in my opinion, because we're always talking to others, learning more, expanding our horizons. Short of that, I would say being real. Being transparent, right? I use an acronym at Tropical Smoothie. It's called TRUST. The T is for transparent.
Okay.
That's the first one for a reason, because I think that's the biggest thing. Whether you're leading a team, of a small team, a big team, et cetera, being yourself, right? The R is for responsible. This isn't two-hand touch football. This is full-on capitalism.
Yeah.
We're tackling people. No, I joke, but you get what I'm.
Get the job done.
Yeah. And then we think about prosper. The U is for unique. Be yourself. Bring your whole self to work in whatever you're doing. Bring all of you. Doesn't matter, bring it all. Be yourself. The S is for service oriented. If there was an H in trust, I would have called it hospitality, but there isn't.
It's okay.
So I'm going to do service oriented instead. It doesn't work. Service oriented, which it speaks to the core of who we are. And the last T is for tenacious, right? I love tenacious because whatever we're doing, let's put all of ourselves into it. And so that acronym, you see, I have to keep things simple. But that forms the basis of what I want to keep in my head all the time of I should be leading from those 5 lenses that creates trust, which to me, of course, I stole from Patrick Lencioni and 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, but I made it my own. I twisted it up a little bit. But that to me is incredibly important and leads me down the leadership road daily.
That's good. That's your filter.
That's my filter. That's a great way to put it, yeah.
But you developed that over time.
I did.
So put yourself back into the shoes of some of the accelerators here, not all, but some, or some of the students that are here, some of the emerging leaders that are here. And whether you want to look back and tell yourself something that you would have liked to hear, or whether you just have a moment in time where you said to yourself, this is what I need to focus on. Give us an example of either of those.
So I'm going to give you an example because we're at a conference and we can look through that door right there and see the Prosper Forum. I went to a lot of conferences. You've probably been to a million conferences, right?
Many.
But when I was 22 or 30 or 36 or 40, whatever, all the way through my careers, we're always going to conferences. I drew a line in the sand and said, I'm going to be on that stage. And I think the people that we're talking about here, our accelerators, need to say the same thing. And when I saw a great speaker, I would pick, I love that and that. Take what you want, leave the rest. And so trust or anything else that I've come up with is an amalgamation of different things that are learned over the years. So all I knew going in was I got to be a sponge. I'm allowed to take what I want and leave the rest. And over time, continuing to do that and have a mindset of I just want to get better and I just want to learn, naturally, you start creating and thinking, and you'll be flying on a plane back from that conference and you'll go, I learned this and I learned this and blah, blah. And guess what? All those notes over time they start to form what I believe is the basis for a leadership style. It's the basis for a lens, as you said, to look through things. And so that's what I would tell anyone that is looking to develop that is what what an opportunity.
Oh, it's
There's so
huge.
many smart people
Yeah.
that come to these conferences
Yeah.
or that are just in our daily lives.
And that share.
Yeah,
The industry,
and that
restaurant industry is
share.
very unique in that way.
Exactly.
There are not many industries where the CEOs who compete on
We
the
compete
daily
on a daily basis.
for
Yep.
customers
Yep.
and compete tenaciously
You're right.
are still sharing what works for them, what works for their people, what works for leadership. And so it is an incredible opportunity. And I think that I love that notion of being a sponge. And if I may, I would add to that of like taking notes, right? I saw you
Yeah.
like I'm on the airplane. And even if you're like this,
Yep. Either
instead
way,
of
you can do it
this,
either way.
I think it can be very overwhelming to hear, CEO after CEO talk about their journey. But any glimpse you can take to take it back to yourself can be really helpful.
Absolutely. Nuggets, right? We've heard
Nuggets.
gold nuggets,
Yeah.
nuggets,
Yep.
etc. If you just perk your ears up and listen, you don't have to take it all in.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able
Never.
to take it all in. We're gonna remember 2% of what we hear, but make sure that 2% is impactful. Not impactful to who? Impactful to you. Impactful to you. That's what matters.
And where you are.
Yeah,
and what your
exactly.
business needs.
And
or
that'll
your team
change.
needs.
And that'll
Yeah.
change over time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, you just said a word impactful, one of my favorite words. What impact are you looking to have? I mean, we talked about mentorship, we
Sure.
talked about trust and how you lead your team, but if you see yourself in another 10, 15, 20 years and looking back at that point, what kind of impact would you like to say you have had?
The impact that I would like to have is probably trifold. Let's see if I can pull this off. Trifold. Number one, at Tropical Smoothie Cafe at our support center, our what you would call corporate employees, we talk a lot about the toolbox. In this day and age, in this employment environment, it's a trade-off. It's not come work here for the next 40 years and you'll get a gold watch. That's not how it works anymore. It's you're going to come and work here, and what are we pouring back into you?
Yeah.
So I call it give and take. So I want to have an impact that people that come to Tropical Smoothie and they move on, I want them moving on to bigger and better things for them
Good
and
for
their
you.
families, right? Because they have more tools in their toolbox. That's number one. For our franchisees, number two, it's income, wealth, equity, lifestyle. I want to create a brand for them, with them, that drives their equity value. That at the end of the day, what's great about franchising is their assets. And when you go to sell that asset, I want them to have, without sounding too nerdy, another turn or two of multiple for them when they go to sell that business. And third, see if I can get all the way here, as a person, as an individual, as Charles Watson, I just would like to be seen as somebody who took the time to give back. I had the rope, you've heard the rope is thrown over. I want to be a guy who's known as throwing the rope back over to help others, because so many people have helped me. No Kid Hungry, Prosper. There's some important things going on that I'd like to be known for. He did well. He ran a good business, but he also took time to do for others and to give back to others. And those would be the three I want to focus on.
I'm impressed. You started out with threefold and you nailed it.
I mean,
and you are
halfway
already
through, I was
known
like,
for
I'm
that.
gonna forget.
No, you did it.
I got this.
You
I
did
got the
it. You
third.
got it. But you are very well known for that already, truly.
Well, that's
for
very
giving
kind of you.
back and
Very
for
kind.
thinking
There's always
ahead
more you can
and-
do.
Yeah, of course. There's always more everyone can do. So, advice beyond sponge, beyond conference specific. Let's say an accelerator walks up to you today and says, "I'm stuck. Like I'm just stuck. I want to get my business from point A to point B, and I can't get out of my own head. What should I be doing? What advice can you give me?" If there's like a one sentence answer, advice that you always gave yourself or that you hear giving to others.
This is going to be a little, maybe a bit abstract. My one sentence would be, let's go have a conversation. Why? Why let's go have a conversation? You don't have to have it with me. You can have it with somebody, but have a conversation and be vulnerable. Had a little bit of that today, not conference,
Yeah,
but it
yeah.
but it did hit on.
Yeah.
I believe that people connect and people grow when they're vulnerable and they put something out that is uncomfortable. Because what does that do to the other person? If I tell you something right now that tells you about my heart and my soul and something hard I've been through, you're going to want to do everything you can.
Yeah.
We're humans. We connect that way. And so I would say, find somebody great to have a conversation with, to work through that, to be in your head. And this is uncomfortable for me to say. I'm in my head all the time.
Yeah.
I'm in my head all the time, and at night and on the phone and all that kind
Totally.
of stuff. And I have to remember as well to keep things in their proper
Yeah.
priorities, right?
I really love that. I'm taking that. go have a
Duly
conversation,
stolen.
or let's go have a conversation.
That's where
And I
growth
like the
comes from,
notion
right?
of like, yeah, it's connection, it's storytelling, it's
connection.
communication. And James Pogue talked a little bit about that, is like, how do you move an organization or people forward without having that connectivity? And you get that connectivity through conversation.
Every offsite that I've done with every executive team pretty much spend the first day
Yeah.
telling our life story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I can guarantee every time I've done it, tears.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you really get it going. Now, I always go first. I think the leader has to go first. And I just
Good
happen to
point.
have plenty of crazy stuff that I can share that can be good, bad, sad. Being vulnerable and going first as a leader will engender the passion of your people to you as a person. Then you have the door open to go be a leader.
Yeah.
Right? I believe in you as a person. Now, let me see if I can follow. And again, I thought this session in there today was fantastic, but a lot of that is you go first, Mr. or
Yeah.
Mrs. Leader.
You do. You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
And you have to show that there's a safe space. You have to show that you are willing to go there along with the requests that you're asking of your team.
Right.
I think that's extremely important and smart. That's great to hear. Okay. Resources outside of conferences, outside of meeting, having conversations. I'm talking like, what do you read?
Yeah.
Or what do you listen to? What podcasts do you like? What would you recommend for people who are really trying to engage, not just in this industry, but as people and as executives furthering themselves at any level?
Sure. The old Google machine, I tell you, that thing was a hell of an invention. I've been using it for a while now. I'm not a big podcaster.
What is it called?
G-O. It's got 2 O's in it.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a big podcaster. I probably should be, but I'm not. I'm a reader. I like
Yeah.
to read. And the Google machine part is, what if I typed in how to be an effective CEO? What would come back? I don't know. I
Yeah.
peruse through it. There'll probably be some HBS articles in there. Probably be some Forbes
Atlantic,
stuff,
whatever.
Atlantic,
Yep.
whatever.
Mhm.
Searching for what your topic is. That would be one tool. Another tool would be LinkedIn. I have to go back to go find somebody that's already good at what
Yeah.
you're trying to be good at
Yeah.
and see if they'll give you 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That has been the secret to my success,
Yeah.
is asking other people that already have the answer. Would you like to go bang your head against the wall, or how about go talk to somebody that's
Right.
already done that?
Right.
They've already gotten
Right.
through the wall. I've been told that that's efficient. That's an efficient way to do it. So what do I read? I vacillate. I'll do a business book, and then I'm a history buff. So I'll go history, business. And you know what? I go in phases where I'm like, I don't want to read a business
Anything.
book to
Yep.
save my
Yep.
life. That's just not
Yep.
what I want to do. I'm going to sit in front of the TV for a week. I'm going to watch something on TV.
There's good documentaries out there.
That's right. But you know what? Sometimes you can just have fun and watch trash
Yeah.
TV or
What kind
or
of
watch
history? Like, what's your niche?
Leadership, I guess.
Okay,
And by
okay.
leadership, I just mean like I love Winston Churchill. I love Lincoln, stuff like that. I've read about every book on those two guys. But there's just such great stuff out there, and the historical context. Benjamin Franklin's another one I like. When you think about the times that we live in now, here we are at the nice hotel that we're staying at with running water, and it's hot water, and we have
It's pretty incredible.
you think about how people 200 years ago lived. I wouldn't have been a good pioneer. I can assure you that. Like, we have a very nice life, a very plush life. And so to go back and understand it's been done by others at a very high level in a much different and more difficult environment should give you some pause of like, there's one word that's really important to me. That's gratitude.
Yeah.
You know, when everything's going upside down, remember to have gratitude. That can bring you back to the place where you need to be when you're up in your head or you're worried about something.
100%.
Just being
there's
grateful you got clothes on your back and a place to
research
sleep.
behind that, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't buy into that for quite some time, I will fully admit. And then in the last year, started really doing like gratitude lists every
that's
night
a
or
great one.
morning.
Yeah.
And I didn't start journaling. That felt overwhelming
Yeah.
to me. But literally, like, here are 5 things I'm very grateful for.
Get your mind in the
And
right place,
over
doesn't it?
time, it
Yeah.
really builds.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
And to think about it from a historical perspective, that's just a whole nother level.
Yep.
I really like your notion on Googling.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not like, whoa, what's Google?
Oh my goodness.
But why I like it is, like, I feel like sometimes you ask CEOs, what do you read or what do you recommend? And it's always like the Wall Street Journal or the Atlantic or HBR. And it's like, that's great. But it also can be very high level. It can be a little esoteric. It can be really long articles that might be hard to get through. And this notion of not being married to like one publication as a former journalist makes me want to cry. But as a consumer of information, is really a good note to let people know it's okay to Google, how do you be a good leader?
You're
That's
gonna
okay
see
to do.
You're gonna see a lot. You're gonna see the Wall Street Journal and the Atlantic and all that. You're gonna see that stuff as well, and then you're gonna see other things. It's about what content hits you and helps you.
Yes.
Of course, read the Wall Street Journal. Like, duh.
Table
Like we know that table
Yeah.
stakes to have some idea. But you know what? Should you be really mad at yourself if you didn't read the Wall Street Journal on
Right.
Tuesday?
Right.
No, because your kid's sick and you got to go to work and you got
Right.
life going on
Yeah.
at the same time. No, take it easy on yourself, but keep going. Right?
Yeah.
Give yourself a break, but keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going down that road to making yourself better, because whether it's gratitude, and then what does that lead to? It leads to self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Good
when
point.
we can get through hard times and not completely beat ourselves up and get out of our own heads, it allows us to just kind of put one foot in front of the other and gradually get better. I had a coach one time that said, "Boys, half the way to win is to show up." Isn't that the same? It's the same in business.
100%.
Show up.
100%. I think the most admirable thing of any leader or person is showing up at the right time. And when you don't want to.
When you don't want to.
When you
Yep.
don't want to,
Yeah.
you still show up. And that's more than half the battle.
Yeah. And when you think about how you give back at the end of the day, if you want to have a legacy, you're going to we have choices to make, and we all have to run our businesses. We all have to do our careers and put food on the table and all that kind of stuff. So when you can carve the time to do something else that's outside of serving just you, it's a hard decision to make, but we all know that when it's done, you feel pretty good about it, right?
Totally.
You've
Well,
released a few endorphins, you know?
And that's pretty much the message of Prosper, right?
It is.
Giving
Yeah,
back,
it's
being
very
a
neat.
part of something bigger, getting out of yourself. And we really appreciate it.
Was this Psychology Today we were on?
Yes,
I was just
100%,
wondering which podcast I was on. Yes,
you didn't know
absolutely.
that? Yes. Welcome.
Where did you get your PhD?
I
Just
stopped
kidding.
at the master's. No, but Charles, you're a great friend to the Ellie Group.
Oh, thank you.
We really appreciate that. And we're proud to be here at Prosper with you, and proud to be at Prosper ourselves.
And I'm proud to be an Elliott client. We have a
Nice.
search going right now, actually.
Cool.
So
Yes, we
love,
do.
love Alice and the team, and
Excellent.
so we appreciate working with you guys as well.
Awesome. And thank you to Prosper.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for tuning in. Charles Watson's powerful take on inclusive leadership is a must-hear for anyone looking to inspire change. Follow us, share this episode, and join us next time for more stories that shape the future. We'll see you soon here on the Prosper Brief.